I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're diving into Michael O'Shaughnessy's thought-provoking new book. It is called A Parable and a Warning. Through a gripping metaphor of three families marooned on a deserted island, O'Shaughnessy tackles urgent issues like sustainability, cooperation, and the consequences of living for today at the expense of tomorrow. Join us as we explore the profound lessons in this cautionary tale that feels eerily relevant to our modern world. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Michael, great to see you here today. Welcome to Spotlight.
Thank you so much for having me today. I consider it an honor, and I look forward to it.
It's an honor to have you on the show. This is quite a book you have written. What made you decide to write a parable, and how did you develop its central metaphor?
Well, Logan, I've been concerned for some time with the trends and the negative attitudes that are permeating our society. We've become more divisive, more secular, bitter towards those who disagree with us. The races and the political groups have become more polarized. Neighbors conflict with neighbors. Social discord becomes more common. Rural opinions consistently disagree with urban opinions, and civility seems to be eroding. Now, oftentimes, Logan, we hear statements that are vitriolic and biased and prejudiced. And another problem that I see is our media, and no offense, not you, but our media in general they ask questions knowing and prompting what they want the answer to be, as opposed to an honest question. We make provocative statements, you and I, and all of us, in opinions, but we don't often enough listen, and I underscored the word listen, to the explanation of the other party. Instead, in the back of our mind, we're searching for a way to counter what that person is stating or explaining. What, in my humble opinion, we must have as our country, as our media, as our discourse between each one of us is less abrasive statements, more respect for opposing views. For instance, there are a lot of sincere questions that we could ask that I rarely ever hear. For example, look you in the eye and say, what do you think? Or why do you feel that way? Or what can we do together to address this issue? Why don't we both agree? Or what can the two of us agree upon? So those are some of the reasons, to answer your question, as to why I felt inspired to write this book. We're all aware that our nation has major and complex problems. What we need to do, Logan, is to come together as American people to understand opposing thoughts and opinions and to respect them. We don't have to agree on everything, but we should at least respect the opposing view and understand why the opposition feels the way they do. And I don't think we do to a great degree. Now, getting to the story itself, I'm trying to present a few families being marooned on a deserted island and their means to survive, sustain, and find happiness. And I think you'll find when you see the book that there are problems similar to what our nation has, especially in terms of getting agreement for three families to come to a conclusion and to agree on what the solution is. So that's what I mean when I titled the book, A Parable and a Warning. The parable is obviously three families have problems that I think may be indicative of a much larger problem. And the warnings are that if we don't come together, then we may be in difficult times on our island being planet Earth. So that's it to answer your question.
Well, it's very, very well thought out, very, very well explained. The three families, do they represent different aspects of human society?
Yes, and I did that on purpose. You could imagine. Well, this uh, cruise ship that's taking off for LA to Sydney has 8,000 passengers on it, and there are three families that happen to be sitting together for dinner, and so they get to know each other quite well. But they are quite diverse. One of the families is Hispanic. Their heritage comes from Cuba, and I believe it's their parents actually came over from Cuba, but they still retain that Hispanic heritage. Another family is white Anglo-Saxons that are from a farming community in Lower Alabama, a place called Bayou La Batre. And so the third family is African American, and they live in San Francisco. The gentleman is a lawyer, very well educated, and his wife is also African American and also very well educated. So, to answer your question, we have three distinct ethnicities here. We have the typical white American from a rural area. We have a Hispanic his family has been here for a while. And then we have the African American family.
Tell us a little bit about why you chose to focus on themes like sustainability and sacrifice.
Well, I think that has been for the last 2 or 3 administrations a trend that's been going on in our country, that we need to think about issues that may endanger our country, our people, our earth, if we don't think about it, such as climate change, for example. That might, and I think oftentimes when we come up with a problem, an issue, it's like a pendulum swinging. And it becomes an issue that we focus almost totally on, but it swings too far many times. And we need to bring it back. Not that it's not an issue that needs to be addressed, but we only have so many resources out there, and we only have so much time to do it. So the question is, how devoted should we get to addressing a specific issue? So I don't know if that exactly addresses your question, but there are distinct issues that come up in our society, just like they do in this family that's on this deserted island. And like the family tries to address them, and whether they come together or not, in some ways is analogous to the problems that we have in our country, and whether we come to a reasonable resolution.
Do you think Americans today are prepared to make sacrifices for future generations?
That's an excellent question. And before I address the question, I'd like to say we got to make sure what we're talking about, we understand what we're talking about here. And the question is, do Americans as a group, do they are they able to address sacrifice in order to make tomorrow a better day or more pleasant than it would have been? What I want to clarify or specify is not all Americans think alike. It's a group, it's a family. I'm not telling anything you don't already know, but it's a little bit dangerous to say, yes, Americans feel this way and they ought to do that, or no, they do not. We know that a great majority of them do. We know that I hate to say majority, but a great portion do not. So I qualify my answer with that. And so with that said, to me, it's not clear exactly what the answer is to your question. I think it's still evolving.
Agreed. And I think perhaps we have to see the impact that we're having now to realize that if we continue down this road, the impact down the road will be even worse. So I think it's a matter of looking at our own situation right now for people to come to the right conclusions, no doubt. What are you hoping that readers take away from your book?
I hope that what they do is they become what I call a hero. In the book, people oftentimes ask me, is there a hero in the book? And since I'm addressing the book through one person, you could argue he must be the hero. But in my book, I try to make everyone a hero. And I hope, to answer your question about the reader, I hope the reader sees some of the thoughts I have and becomes a hero too. Now, what would a hero be? A hero would be someone who sees the dangers that are out there in our country and where we're headed to. It's like a large aircraft carrier. It's hard to turn that carrier around when it's headed maybe over the dam, but we need to do that. And so I would hope that the readers look for issues that are related to what I'm talking about: disagreements, device thoughts, discrimination, bias, economic discord. I would just like the reader to think about those things and to see if they see those in their community. And if they do, what can they help do to address this problem? They're not going to be able to go on your show every week and discuss it and say, here's the answer, but they are going to be able to meet with their neighbors and in an agreeable way say, I don't like what they're teaching at school right now. It's just, I don't think it's best for this country. Let's go to the PTA meeting, you and me, and we'll discuss it. And maybe we're wrong, but let's at least discuss it. So that's a crude way of answering your question.
Through it all, I think it's very empowering, and I think that's what people need to do. They need to think about the major issues of today. They need to get involved. They need to get off of social media and get to the meetings and talk to people in person and have heart-to-heart discussions and ask a question that doesn't have a preset answer attached to it. I think you've made wonderful and relevant points today. The name of the book is A Parable and a Warning. Through a gripping metaphor of three families marooned on a deserted island, the author tackles urgent issues like sustainability, cooperation, and the consequences of living for today at the expense of tomorrow. It's an amazing book. It's an insightful book. It might just help you rethink the way you live your life and the way we should live our lives collectively going forward. Michael, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been an honor.
It's been an honor having you on the show. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.